if we had a way to compare what was available in the 1950s around spirituality and what we have now, millions of teachings and practices and insights that keep expanding, particularly with the development of the internet. All of this is focused on the I, and the I coming into the we, or into unity or non-dual. Now we've got there's another shift that's occurring. I would say, or we would say, in the last 5 years, it's really begun to pick up steam. And that is, in addition to the exploration of self, we're now saying that it's important that we learn how to horizontally embody these teachings in our relationship with others. And there are these advantages of moving from the I to practicing these spiritual teachings with the we, many of them. But the first one, and probably more than anything else, is that when we're practicing alone, even if we're in a group or in an ashram or a weekend, what happens when we start relating to one another is our stuff comes out, our fears. Trauma was created often and usually early in life because our caregivers weren't present enough. And in some form, there wasn't the safety or the attention for the child to be met. In that, our issues become with people. And if our focus is primarily on the self coming into non-dual, there's obviously, we have to do that. But there's also a chance that we miss or bypass the traumas that are stored within our nervous systems that only come out in relationship. It just doesn't come out. In addition to this ability to co-regulate together, which has to do with dealing with trauma that only comes up in relationship. I say only, it tends to come up in relationship faster than when we're by ourselves. But the other thing is that in relationship, we get to practice deep listening and presence with one another. And then the third major advantage of being in spiritual relationality is that we get to learn how to co-create together. And this co-creation is what the world is really in need of.
Yeah, I want to add to that because I think we cannot underestimate the difficulty of relational spirituality, because indeed of the triggers and finding each other and learning how to dialogue and to bridge differences and see all the perspectives and all that. So in some way it's easier on my own, but we can never get as far alone with all the challenges we face as a society. A higher form of collaboration is necessary to really address them, and a collaboration where we really feel that we are one with all our differences, with all our different talents and gifts, but it's in true collaboration that we can make a change.
Let me jump, I'll jump with that. As we've developed over these 50 years, this vast amount of practices and teachings covers everything, all aspects of life. It's almost like if we now look at in the last 5 years, when we focus on groups, we have almost no technology whatsoever as to how to create intentionally group resonance. How do we as a group learn to listen to one another? And how do we work with the trauma inside the group? So our work and I'll start with my work for the past 35 years. My interest has been definitely on individual awakening, my own and collectively. But my interest has always been, how do we create environments intentionally that allow for each individual to wake up more easily, not through a weekend workshop or living in an ashram, but in our families? How do we change the families, the friendships, businesses, the schools, the governments, so that within those groups that we live in, the groups have found a way to work with all of the trauma and the disagreements in the sense of separation, in order to, hey, we know how to create resonance in a group. It's not one way. It's in the same way that there's not one way to individually come into enlightenment or connection. In the same way, there's now all kinds of circle movements that are starting. And our contribution to this is Heart Circle. And very briefly, the evolution of Heart Circle was I worked on Heart Circle for 35 years, developing a way that we can intentionally create resonance very quickly together, and it works. Then when Great and I began collaborating, what you brought in was that the Heart Circle was based on the individual waking up within the group. And Great says, okay, what about the group waking up as a group?
Yeah, I think that's where my passion is. It's really like, what if the group itself becomes awakened and becomes a true portal? When our little selves are a little bit more silenced and we are really present with each other and feeling the heart resonance, then something can happen. It's a kind of magic almost, when I see it happening, when groups are really devoted to that, whether it's in a partnership or a friends group or a team or whatever, then it's like spirit is coming through. And because it's a group, the channel is larger than it is an individual. So it's very powerful when that happens. And when I see it happening, I see like that's where the hope is for our future.
Mm.